Hi there. Um, this is a little bit of a change of video just to talk about a novel which I'm actually listening to on audible.com. It's A Strange Conflict by Mr. Denis Wheatley. Read extremely well, I might add, by Christopher Lee. And Christopher Lee does a very good job with basically what is pretty poor material. Because I have to say that Mr. Wheatley is not a good writer. He's not a patch on Sir Arthur Conan Doyle, for example. I'm also listening to the Sherlock Holmes series written by Doyle and done brilliantly well by Stephen Fry. I don't think Stephen Fry would have anything to do with Mr. Denis Wheatley's novels, simply because there's so much right-wing paranoia mixed up in them. Wheatley was a sort of child of his time in the 1950s, height of the Cold War, communists everywhere, homosexuals everywhere, Chinese trying to take over the world. It's, well, what's new? The xenophobia of Denis Wheatley is also shared by H.P. Lovecraft, for example, who's very, very xenophobic and very racist. As opposed to Doyle, who, is a little bit of racial stereotyping comes in, but he's pretty good on some subjects. He's pretty progressive on other things. So I suppose, and it's Sherlock Holmes. So what can you say? You got to it's classic really. Um, I don't think Denis Wheatley's novels have ever become classic. Really, they have a niche market. Hammer House of Horror did The Devil Rides Out quite well. And they're just sort of goodies versus baddies romps basically. Um, but then the same as A.J. Rawlings with the Harry Potter universe, um, Denis Wheatley takes real inverted commas magical lore and he mixes it with his own lore. Which is there to provide conflict resolution, character arc, such as it is, um, plot development. And that's the same as Rawlings. Rawlings mixes real magic with her own lore, which is there obviously to character arc, Harry Potter, for example, and others, to move the plot along, conflict resolution, all that kind of stuff. The archetypal baddie, Lord Voldemort. And in Wheatley's case, it's Ramos, the psychopathic leader of the Order of the Ram, which is a satanic organization. And so there's a mixing of magic, of real magic, real knowledge, and Wheatley's own take on it. Um, there's also a lot of theosophy mixed in as well, and even Gnosticism to a degree. And listening again to Strange Conflict after many, many years of neglect of that particular novel and Wheatley's novels in general, um, it struck me actually this time, perhaps because it's read by Christopher Lee, who brings out a lot of, I don't know, a lot of something about it. It's quite interesting, really. I mean, the cosmology of Denis Wheatley is interesting. We're all on a spiral journey of spiritual evolution, and um, on this physical plane and on the other seven astral planes, and indeed on the mental, causal, right up to the spiritual plane, we are given a choice in life. We have crisis in our lives, in our astral bodies, astral lives, and in our physical lives. And we can either evolve spiritually by sticking to ethical principles as far as we can, and cultivating good intentions, always bearing in mind that our good intentions can be naive and misplaced or misapplied, or we can misunderstand a situation and think we're doing the right thing when we're not doing the right thing. So we have that to contend with. Or in the face of scarcity, of resources, we can become manipulative, predatory, exploitative, even psychotic, and and we can devolve basically spiritually. Because no doubt about it, that being a thoroughgoing bastard, it harms your spiritual progress, according to this cosmology. And although I do have to say that Denis Wheatley doesn't distinguish between, so I would say, good, little evil and big evil. Unlike Joss Whedon in the Buffy universe, Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And there's a very interesting speech given by Spike, a vampire character in Joss Whedon's universe, in which Spike says, I don't want to destroy humanity. I don't want to rule humanity. I want to be a vampire. I like humanity. I like humanity's whiskey. I like the money that you can get from mugging people. I like drinking human blood. So why on earth would I want to get rid of the human race and kill the goose that lays the golden egg for me? But he said then we vampires stick to the shadows and we live in crypts and sleep all day and hunt all night, doing what we do because it's in our nature because we're vampires. But then every so often you get this psychotic vampire or psychotic magician or whatever comes, and he wants either to destroy the whole universe, which it seems totally pointless to me. And I'm an evil vampire, don't forget, but I don't think that's going to be a good idea to destroy the whole universe. Or we want to take over the universe, take over the world. And I would say to that, well, read your Julius Caesar, et tu bruti. I mean, every tyrant has a score of traitors who are smiling at him with one, and then they've got their knives at the back. They're carrying their knives behind them, ready to stab the tyrant in the back when it suits them to do so. And pretty much all the tyrants of the world, when you think about it, have been portrayed. And indeed, as the narrative goes, even Jesus was betrayed. So if it can happen to Jesus, it can certainly happen to you if you want to take over the entire world. So there's no point in taking over the entire world, and there's certainly no point in trying to destroy the whole universe and just trying to destroy humanity if you're enjoying the sex, drugs, and rock and roll that humanity provides, or being human provides. So why indeed become anything else but human? And one gets the impression that this jolly old satanic order of the Ram, was busy into their sex, drugs, and rock and roll, keeping themselves to themselves, not harming, not scaring the horses, not worrying the man on the Clapham omnibus, but just keeping themselves, doing their thing, being exploitative, manipulative, predatory within their own, I don't know, within their own remit, within their own sort of, I don't know, purlieu or within their own circle, as it were, even. Getting the odd virgin and sacrificing her or something. And then Ramos comes along, who's a complete psycho, and he wants to take over the world in order to destroy the whole world, it seems to me. He's sort of working kind of for a sort of Scorpio energy, which he wants to feed on itself till there's nothing left, which seems utterly pointless. But because nobody in the order dares to go up against Ramos, he takes over the satanic order and leads it regularly into worse straits than it ever was before. I mean, I really can't understand why the satanic order has anything to do with Ramos. Go and be a psychopath on your own, mate. But don't worry us with your stupid plans to take over the world and destroy humanity or whatever. Of course, that is all mixed up with right-wing paranoia, xenophobia, communists, homosexuals, Indians, Chinese, um, Jews. They're all trying to take over and destroy your cottage with your little roses round the door, sort of thing, kind of thing. So we have all that going on. But I do really quite like Denis Wheatley's cosmology in a way. He puts theosophy and Gnosticism in a very sort of accessible way. He's got to because he's writing adventure yarns, isn't he? He's writing, computer game scenarios, and but and there's some absurd contradictions arise from it. But there's also the basic understanding, which is, we are evolving spiritually. Now, we don't really know what that means. People define spiritual evolution in different ways and define justice and beauty and goodness in different ways. But it's true to say that there are limits to behavior. And if you really either become totally psychotic and start, destroying everything around you, or you become so predatory, exploitative, and manipulative that you get so many enemies, and in the end, they're going to destroy you because you're too evil even for them. Um, and it seems to me that those people, the sort of psychos, I suppose, are also trying to make it very difficult for us to evolve spiritually, because they make the world, which is a pretty bad situation, into a much worse situation, and therefore, I suppose they represent sort of spiritual obstacles in our way. So we've got to have these kind of evil, mad, psychotic, big evil people, as opposed to the little evil people, to make our spiritual progress that much more challenging. And what doesn't kill you makes you stronger, kind of philosophy. So therefore, we grow spiritually, whatever that means, as a result of being in contact with the psychotics of this universe, like Ramos and, I don't know, Joseph Stalin and Adolf Hitler. I mean, even look at Adolf Hitler, a complete tyrant, and yet Himmler, his right hand man, portrayed him in the end. Just to go back to that point very briefly, and quite interesting, and of course, they all do these things because they think it's good for humanity, or good for Germany, or good for North Korea, or whatever, all these tyrants, or Iraq, or whatever. They're all doing it for some kind of higher purpose. But that higher purpose doesn't include you or me. And you and me, because we're not Iraqis or Germans or North Koreans or whatever, are just fodder, are cannon fodder or collateral damage or whatever. Um, so I think, once a spiritual person tries to include, it's a very inclusivist person, tries to include as many people in their niceness as they possibly can. They're not selectively nice to people. They're nice to everybody and take everybody at face value, until proven otherwise, and basically want to get along with everybody. And it's a small planet, and a small universe, for example, for that matter, a small cosmos, and we all want to rub along together, without going too mad about everything. And it's interesting, that on the astral level, for example, in Denis Wheatley's cosmology, people have affairs, people have sex with other people other than their wives and partners. They have, they do sort of little naughty things, but it's when they sort of become completely and utterly beyond the pale, even beyond the pale for their own satanic supporters. That's when you've got to put a stop to what they're doing, which de Richelieu and the heroes of Denis Wheatley try to do. So in that sense, they're white light warriors, simply because there's a balance in the universe as well. And when you get people like Ramos coming along, they upset the balance of the universe. And so therefore, to balance it all out, you've got to oppose them. You've got to be the white light warrior that re-establishes balance. But this balance only exists within this world, of course. In the Gnostic world, balance wouldn't be a concept because resolution has occurred. So balance isn't a concept. Good and evil isn't a concept. Duality isn't a concept because you transcended balance, duality, um, free will in the sense that of what we know about free will, and you certainly transcended manipulation, exploitation, and predation, um, and you've transcended the desire to destroy everything around you in a sort of psychotic frenzy of bloodlust. So I hope I've, Dennis Wheatley's stories are quite fun. Um, and they do, as I say, do explain quite a few metaphysical ideas in a very accessible way. And if you take out all the right-wing paranoia and conspiracy theories, you have something which is quite usable actually, as a sort of handbook on metaphysics, as it were, within the actual story as it unfolds. And the stories are quite good as well. A bit obvious, but they've got a certain rugged style to them, which isn't Lovecraft, and it isn't Doyle, and it isn't Stephen King for that matter, or any other horror writers that you could think about. But as I say, wow, strange conflict. It is a strange conflict, but ultimately, the strangeness and the conflict go. They are transcended in the end. I hope. There's a dog barking.